Welcome to the November 10th meeting of the Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council. If we could first please say the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone would rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and to Secretary Max Rossi for roll call.
Yes. When I call your name, also please state where you're from or which area you are representing. Jack Dugan.
He's excused.
Okay, Pioneer Town. Elizabeth Carmen.
Here.
Yucca Mesa.
What?
Yeah. Yucca Mesa. Okay.
Oh,
Mike Lipsitz.
Here, Landers.
Mark Lundquist.
Here, Joshua Tree.
Pat Flanagan.
Here. Desert
Max Rossi, Wonder Valley. Gail Sorat.
Here, Morongo Valley.
Mary Helen Tuttle.
Here, Copper Mountain Mesa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now if we could adopt the agenda, if there are any changes, and I do have one already. My oversight, earlier this month I was driving, and when the new park commissioners, David Smith's secretary, Patty Gerhardt, called and said, could he have a few minutes at the MAC meeting? I said, of course. And then I was driving, I didn't write it down. So I'd like to add David Smith, Superintendent David Smith, to the agenda, and he'll be number right after G, before H. Okay, thank you so much, and I hope they'll forgive me. Any other changes to the agenda? Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. We have a motion to accept the agenda with the change. Any opposed? Okay, we accept the agenda. And next we have approval of the minutes from our meeting of October 13th, 2014. I believe everybody got a copy ahead of time. Any changes to the minutes? I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. We don't need a second on that. Any opposed? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The minutes are adopted. And moving right along, if we could, now is a call for public comment. If you want to speak and about an item not on the agenda, you'll fill out one of these cards. They're over here. And you don't have to put your name, though sometimes it's helpful. If you just put the subject, is mostly what we need. And you could just walk up anytime during the meeting and set them over here. So we have now public comment, and we have Ms. Doyle, Celeste Doyle. Hi.
Hi.
If you wouldn't mind, take the podium.
Thank you.
There's a button on that mic if you find that it's not on, the one laying on there, on the podium.
There's a green light. Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Celeste Doyle. I'm a Joshua Tree resident and a business owner. And I'm here to talk about the Altamira project. I was invited by Mr. Lipsitz in his capacity as the supervisor's field representative to a closed-door meeting with the Altamira applicants and a handful of people viewed by Mr. Lipsitz as Joshua Tree community leaders. The invitees were welcome with the understanding that the purpose of the meeting is to discuss possible mitigation or compromise, and on the condition that, quote, those who meet should be willing to consider the possibility that there could be some mutually acceptable path for this project or some project to win support, close quote. I personally decline the invitation because I think the meeting is inappropriate, but I think it is wrong for a few reasons. It may be legal, but I don't think it's appropriate. First, no one has the authority to negotiate this project on behalf of the Joshua Tree community. We do not have an elected local government to speak for us. The invitees, as I said, are perceived as community leaders, and you may see them as such as well. But that doesn't mean that they have authority to speak on your behalf regarding this project. They have not been selected by you or elected by you to do that. And I have declined because I don't feel like I have been selected or elected on your behalf to say anything about this project. I think the people that have been named or invited by Mr. Lipsitz are all good and smart people, and they have the interests of the community at heart, mostly, as far as I know. But once again, they have not been selected or elected by you to speak on your behalf. So I'm not sure that it's appropriate for them to do so. The applicants already know what the community's concerns are regarding this project. It has been relayed in written comments and oral comments and public meetings. And if they are going to lay a compromise on the table, I think they should do so publicly. If they want to propose a revised project, I think they should reapply with the county. The last thing that I want to say about this is that, to me, personally, it was offensive to be asked to help find a way for these outside developers build such an ill-conceived and inappropriate project in Joshua Tree, while the county defunds our Chamber of Commerce, local developers languish, and the community goes unanswered in repeated requests for a specific plan, a formula retail ordinance, pedestrian safety, development codes appropriate for the desert community that we are, and other matters. We have identified many of the tools that would make Joshua Tree the economic engine it could be, but the county doesn't seem to even want to pick up those tools, much less use them. Joshua Tree is a diamond in the rough, and the county should be shaping and polishing it. Instead, it seems to be wanting to crush it, and it's very frustrating. And once again, I was invited, I decline, and if other people want to attend, that's their opportunity and their prerogative. That's just my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Moving on, any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. We'll move to public safety reports, and we have Battalion Chief Gary Bush. Thanks for coming.
Well, good evening. On behalf of our Fire Chief, Mark Hartwig, and our Division Commander here of the Morongo Basin, Dave Binfield, my name is Gary Bush. I'm the on-duty Battalion Chief tonight here for the County Fire Department. We will have our regular monthly report available to you next month. We apologize we didn't have that prepared tonight for our activity in the month of October. That's where we capture our number of emergency incidents that have occurred during a month's time across the Morongo Basin. But I would like to share with you a quick update on our new ambulance operator program, which is working out very well. What that means to you and I is that we added 6 additional ambulance operators, for short we call them AOs. These personnel staff our ambulances. They are single function personnel. Previously, our ambulances were staffed by firefighter paramedics. What this did is it allowed us to shift our firefighter paramedics over to our fire engines. So it actually increased our staffing level on our fire engines, while also giving us, again, 6 additional ambulance operators that respond to medical emergencies on our county fire department paramedic ambulances. So that program's working out very well. We've recruited from all over Southern California for these individuals. We feel we got the cream of the crop from many different sectors of the region, and they're doing a really great job for us. So when you have a medical emergency now, the improvement is that if you're having a life-threatening medical problem, you will have the response of the closest paramedic, county fire department paramedic engine arriving at your doorstep, in addition to our paramedic, county fire department paramedic ambulance staffed by these ambulance operators. So we come in with a total of 5 personnel. Some may say, wow, why do I need that many people in my living room? But believe me, when you're having a medical emergency, think of that as the emergency room showing up in your living room. And all the hands it takes and the equipment and all that to stabilize you and get you to the hospital. On a non-life-threatening emergency, what that now allows us to do is we will send our ambulances only, so you'll have 2 personnel arriving at your house to do the same thing, stabilize your non-life-threatening emergency, treat you there, get you to the hospital, while now keeping our paramedic fire engines available for higher degree of emergencies, fires, traffic collisions, that type of thing. So I just want to brief you on that program. We started about a month ago, working very well, giving us a lot more flexibility and an increased number of personnel on duty in your fire department every day across the basin. So is there any questions that I can answer regarding that new program, the increase of our firefighter paramedics that are on our fire engines, or anything about your county fire department? Anything at all? Yes, ma'am.
Who are the 3 people that are on the fire engine?
That's a great question. We have a captain, he's our supervisor. We have our engineer, he drives and operates the fire engine, and then we have our firefighter paramedic.
So you actually have a paramedic on the engine and a paramedic in the ambulance?
That's correct.
So you have 2 paramedics?
Correct. You'll have at least 2 paramedics coming through your door. And some of our captains and engineers are actually paramedic certified as well.
And is the other person in the ambulance just a driver?
EMT driver, correct. Yeah, emergency medical technician driver. Great question. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
That explains a lot. We had a medical emergency last week with an elderly father-in-law, and I was curious why 4 units showed up with 2 paramedics, and I think it was a total of 6 people. But it was welcomed, and they did a fantastic job, so I'd like to congratulate you on the new program.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we really have very dedicated folks, and they love to just come out, whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. They really enjoy doing what we do, and so good to hear that you had good service. That's what we're all about. Yes, ma'am.
Is your equipment, cars, outfitted with a GPS?
Yes.
Some areas, remote areas, are very hard to find.
They are.
The signage in the county is lacking, so it is.
It is, yeah. We have 2 types of GPS systems, and I think I shared this before. They actually argue with each other on the way to the call. Turn right, no, turn left. And it's like, oh, okay. So, yeah, one's driven by our CAD system, our computer-aided dispatch system from our communication center, and then we also have a satellite-based one. So, and we carry 2 just so that we make sure we have that coverage, because, yeah, sometimes it will say right, and we know, no, the other one says left, and I know it's right there. So it's always interesting. Great question. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, are the paramedics firefighter paramedics or just paramedics?
On the ambulances, they're what we call single function. So they're just paramedics or an EMT and an EMT. And then on the fire engine, it's a dual function firefighter paramedic. And actually, that's a great question. You ask, well, why do we want firefighter paramedic certified personnel? A couple examples. We may be working a structure fire, a house fire, and we encounter someone who's injured inside that house. Not only will we rescue them, but our firefighter paramedics have the ability to treat them into or close to that environment, get them stabilized. Probably even more common than that is traffic collisions. We have somebody trapped inside of a vehicle, or even if they're not trapped, we will put our, excuse me, our firefighter paramedics inside that vehicle. They have all the protective equipment and the training to work in that hazardous environment where our single function folks do not. So we can put advanced life support care into whatever situation you find yourself in with those firefighter paramedics. And that works very well. Great question. Yes, ma'am.
This may seem like a silly question.
Not at all. It's
What
not math, is it? Okay.
happens if you get to the scene and the gate's locked?
Yeah, that's a very good question. There's 2 things we can do. One, if you tell us, just call our headquarters there in Yucca Valley and say, hey, I have a locked gate. here's where the key is, here's where the combination is, whatever it may be. We will make an entry into our computer-aided dispatch system. So when we get sent to your address, that'll be a message that pops up and says, here you go. The more expensive route is you can get what's called a Knox box, and that's what all the businesses have. So in that, it's a hard-mounted box that would go on a fence post, a rail, a wall, whatever it may be. And we have a master key that opens up every one of those boxes across the Morongo Basin. And inside would be your key or whatever to get through that door, gate, whatever it may be. Like I say, a little bit more expensive solution, but there are folks that do that, and all the businesses do that. So if, I think Walmart's open all the time, but if Ross is closed, at 2 in the morning and there's a problem inside that business, we open up that lockbox with our master key, get their key, in the door we go, no damage. So, great question.
And if you don't have a key, what do you do? Knock the fence down?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, if we could not go through that, yeah, we do carry equipment to cut, destroy, get through your gate with as little damage as possible, but we will get to you if you don't give us a means to get to you. So, yeah, it's good to do. Very good to do. Then you don't have to replace your gate.
Thank you.
Anything else? Great questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. We could hear from Lieutenant Robles and Joan Griffin, PIO from California Highway Patrol. I think it's just going to be Joan.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to say happy birthday to our Marine Corps and thank our veterans tomorrow. I want to remind everyone about Thanksgiving coming up, and there's going to be extra traffic out there, people going to see their families, so please be careful of that. One thing, we have our second fatality this month, today, going on right now down in the Morongo Valley. Pedestrian, both of the fatalities are pedestrians. So please cross where you're supposed to cross. I don't know what's going on down there right now. If the pedestrian didn't cross where they're supposed to, I'm not exactly sure. But if the pedestrian did cross where they were supposed to, please drive slower, slow down, and look out for the pedestrians out there. Not only in the county areas, but when you're driving through Yucca Valley, 29 Palms, and basically anywhere. Especially at intersections, look out for those pedestrians crossing in the intersection crosswalks. They have the right to be there if they're legally in the crosswalk. So please be patient with them. If they're crossing outside the crosswalk, don't try to run them over to prove a point. Just because you're right doesn't make it right. So I don't know. I hope that none of that's going on. That's a crime. So does anyone have any questions for us tonight? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the previous rep that was here, he made a point of bringing the traffic calming wagon to the highway in Joshua Tree every once in a while. And that hasn't been out there for a long time, and I get down to 45 miles an hour, people are still zooming by me.
Yes, sir, I understand. It was broken for a while.
Yeah.
I think we got it working back up, so hopefully we can get that thing out there. And we moved it around. We only have one.
Right.
So we have to move it around also. We can't just put it in one place, so we do move it around so that, we've got one trailer for the whole Morongo Basin.
Yeah, I'd just like to know that it's out there because I haven't seen it in a year or more.
I got you. It's been out, but not, maybe you haven't seen it, but maybe not down in downtown Joshua Tree. It's been there a couple of times, but it's been in other areas. But it was broken for a while, but I think we got it fixed.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you put like blurbs in the paper? I know the sheriff's department does on occasion.
As far as
Well, whatever, something that's important to public.
as far as updating the public as far as traffic collisions that occur?
No, just about safety issues.
Okay, so what we do is when we have education events. Next week I have a Start Smart class for our teen drivers next week, and on Tuesday night. So if you'd like to attend that with your teenager, please call and sign up for that. That should have been in the paper. And then on Wednesday, we're having an Age Well Drive Smart senior driving class in 29 Palms. You don't need to sign up for that. You don't even need to ever give us your name. You could just come to that. You don't even have to be driving. You can just come to that. And then every once in a while, the paper is courteous enough to post our message in there about, we also do child safety checkups at our office, and the paper is kind enough to put those messages in there for it. And I appreciate that they do that for us.
Why I asked was tonight coming here, and there's some guy on a bicycle in all black road. It was just, I hadn't seen an oncoming car going to the headlights. People at night up here don't wear reflective clothing or light clothing.
Absolutely. If you should.
Make some kind of a notation when your car is
Okay, I'll next press release I write, I'll ask them to do that for us. When you're riding bicycles at night, when you're out being a pedestrian at night, you do need to wear, reflective clothing, light colored clothing, carry a flashlight. If you're riding a bicycle at night, you need to have all the same lighting equipment that cars have. You need to have a front headlight, a rear tail light, so that you can be seen and make yourself something that could be seen.
Thank you. Okay. Captain Del Monde from the Sheriff's Department. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. I'd just like to, I'll try to keep this brief, but discuss a few things. Some changes that we're having here at the station, and I don't know if I've mentioned this yet or not, but we have working at our front desk 2 brand new girls for I don't know how many months. We have only had 1 employee up there. We were finally able to hire 2 more, and they are still learning the ropes. They got sent somewhere else for training, and I know people have called wanting to speak with me, and I swear I think it might be easier to try to speak to the president just by calling the White House, because these girls run people through the ringer. So we're trying to have them lighten up and let them know not everything has to be that way. But by the same token, you don't necessarily a lot of times need to necessarily speak with me. If you want to know, what time some event is, anybody can give you that information. So we ask you to be patient. With that, we also have some changeover of personnel effective Saturday, November 15th. We're losing one of our relatively long-term deputies. I think he's been up here 5 or 6 years, Jesse Moon, who works actually in Yucca Valley right now. He's going to be transferred to the Highland Station. And then many of you know Sergeant Rick Collins. He's been up here for about 20 years. He's being transferred to the Yucaipa Station. So we're getting 5 brand new deputies that literally just graduated the academy. I think the most experienced one we hired in April. So we're getting 5 brand new guys. I met them all last week. One of them I actually asked if he's even graduated high school because he looks like he's about 12. So you will see a whole bunch of new faces soon. It'll take us about 4 months to get those guys trained, so you may see 2 people in a car a lot. We're not beefing, well, we are beefing up the patrol force, but those guys are gonna be in training. And then the sergeant we're getting to replace is Mike Barta, and if anybody's been in the area a long time, you might know Mike or remember Mike. He actually, him and I worked patrol together. We were detectives together, and then he went off and worked narcotics for the last several years, and then was out at Barstow. But he lives here in the community, so it's nice to have people that live here. Again, like Joan mentioned, tomorrow's Veterans Day. So remember that. If you know a veteran, I'm sure there's several in this room, including myself. Thank them, because it gives us, or it's because of what they have done that actually allows us to have meetings like this and come and complain about the government, so on and so forth. So, thank a veteran. And if you're not aware of it, Yucca Valley is having a tribute tomorrow. I believe it's from 9 until about 1 o'clock at the community center. I know we're going to have a static display set up. I know CHP is going to have displays set up. And then there will be a formal event, I think, that starts about 10 or 11. But if you're available, you could go there. And even though he's getting up and walking out of the room, speaking of people to know, I'd like to welcome David back again. I've actually been to a number of events with him, and he's new out at the park, but not new because he had worked out here before as well. So it's great to have people come back that know the area. And that guy is full of energy, so the park really is going to benefit from having him out here. And then the last thing, which is a law enforcement issue that I would like to discuss, was Prop 47, which was passed last Tuesday. And usually when a new law is passed, they don't go into effect until January or June. When Prop 47 passed, the way it was written, it went into effect immediately. So there were a number of crimes that if you committed at 5 minutes to midnight that was a felony and you would have went to prison for, and if you had waited just 3 minutes to commit it, it became a misdemeanor. So with that, I just want to make people aware that there are instances where in the past we would have arrested somebody and taken them to jail, and now we don't because it's a misdemeanor. And not committed in our presence, and the rules of arrest have changed. So the deputies hopefully will be able to explain that to you, but you can actually go on, you can probably Google Prop 47, and it will show you the list of crimes that have changed. We're actually still in the process of developing policy and working with the DA's office to figure out how to handle some of these. So we'll be adjusting on the fly, and we'll just ask for some patience. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Oh, I was going to say, not one? Wow. Yes, sir.
Are they going to review all of the people that got busted and that are in the joint?
That fall under the Prop 47? It's not an independent review, but if they ask for it, yes, because this was an oddity. Usually, you can't retroactive laws. Well, in this case, it was. So anyone that had committed or been convicted of those previous crimes that were felonies that are now misdemeanors, they can ask for a review of their case. And I heard somebody from probation, the public defender's office had mentioned that she believes that there are 10,000 people that either are in county jail, in prison, just in San Bernardino County jail, prison, or on parole or probation with those offenses, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to handle that as people come and say, hey, I want my case reviewed. So it's not a blanket review, but if anybody requests it, yes, it will be reviewed. Yes, ma'am.
Do your deputies wear the cameras on the belt? Do you guys have the cameras?
They're not issued to us. We have some deputies that may have them, but that's something actually that we're experimenting with now. We've got a couple of test projects that are out, that are body-worn cameras, that are either a small camera, like a pin type of camera. We don't have them out here as a general rule. But some of the deputies I know have put a camera in their car, but as a general rule, no, we don't have them. So, because of cost right now, but the technology is getting better, the cost is coming down, so we are experimenting with them, and I would fathom a guess that we will have them at some point in time in the future. Yes, sir.
Last question.
Speaking of criminals, I had a good friend of mine in downtown Joshua Tree had a yard sale about 2 weeks ago. and she had 2 visits from the sheriff, one in the morning, one in the evening, due to the fact that she had a side door that closed louder than her neighbor wanted. Is it going to be a third call?
If the neighbor calls, yeah, there would be a third call. I mean, if somebody calls to make a complaint on something, we respond. We can't say over the phone, oh, too bad, we're not coming out there. So we will respond. It may be nothing. Matter of fact, I was speaking with a gentleman before the meeting started, and they talked about the decibel level of what's acceptable and what's not. But if you're creating noise that's disturbing your neighbor, they can call the sheriff's department. We may not take any action because we may say that's not a crime, or there's nothing that we can do. But if somebody calls, we're going to respond to investigate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for your reports. If we could now welcome Superintendent David Smith, who is a new face here, but I know he was here in the past. And he said his day started before 7 with a meeting, and he just left an ongoing rescue at Keys View. And so we promised to get him out of here if at all possible on the early side. So thank you so much for coming. I've never seen someone coming in for the Park Service in Morongo Basin so celebrated as your arrival here. Really, as people have been really excited.
You're making my head way too big, so stop it. And by the way, when my secretary calls you in the future and you're driving, just let it go, because in California we don't use cell phones when we're driving. Okay, so just remember that. Okay. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's great to be home. I'm from Southern California. As a kid growing up, I climbed here, I camped here. My very first Park Service job was here at Joshua Tree. My first permanent job was down at Cottonwood, and I love this area. In fact, little known fact, I actually bought a house here in actually 29 Palms when I was a park ranger, because we wanted to adopt kids. And there was no phone service in the park. And the only way you can adopt in Riverside County is if you have a telephone. So we bought a house so that we could have a telephone so we could adopt our kids. So that's how committed I am, both to adoption and to having kids. So I'm just here to introduce myself to you all. I'm here to tell you that I've been in the job for about 2 months now, and I think the state of the park is pretty good. I think we're working really hard to serve you all and to serve the visitors. I think this year we're going to have about 1.5 million visitors at the park. That'll be a record for Joshua Tree. Last year, when we had 1.3 million, that was an investment of the tourists of about $65 million that they spent both up here in the high desert and down in the Coachella Valley, because about 55% of our visitors spend the night, and they eat and they buy gas and they do things like that. So I'm proud that we're an economic partner with you all in a fashion that I think is pretty green and pretty good. I think tourism is a pretty safe bet for most of us. Like I said, I worked here 15 years ago, 20 years to 15 years ago, and at that time we had 16 rangers that did protection. So that's our paramedics, our EMS, our law enforcement, our search and rescue. Today there are 8 inside the parks. That's 1/2 of what we had 15 years ago. Our visitation's gone up by about 500,000 since that time. The rescue that's ongoing right now, I was monitoring it as I was driving up from the valley. So our one ranger who's on duty in the park right now is dealing with this, and he's trying to get our volunteers through JOSAR, which I've got to say, I'm going to put a plug in for JOSAR right now. Our volunteer folks that help with search and rescue are just amazing. When I was here 20 years ago, we didn't have that, and today we depend on the men and women of the Morongo Basin to save our visitors who get in trouble and save us when we get in trouble. In fact, we had a rescue this week. I had a climber who went down, and JOSAR showed up, and we're able to pull him out, and he's recovering, and his hip is healing, and he's living a happy life right now because of our volunteers. So the state of the park, it's good, but we are manpower-wise pretty low. Our educational program, which I always thought, it's state-of-the-art. It's one of the best ones in the Park Service. I was so proud of it. We serve 22,000 kids in Riverside and San Bernardino County, and that's kids that come into the park, and we take them for a hike, we connect with them, they feel the rock, they sweat in the park. Well, that's down to about 10,000, because we cut our program in half because of sequestration. So what am I saying? I'm saying that 3 months ago, our park director came to all the park superintendents and said, we're about to celebrate our 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. I need all of you parks that actually charge a fee to actually go to your community and see if you can raise that fee a little bit, because we're not getting any more money from Congress, and we got a lot of work we got to do that we're not doing because we're not keeping pace with what Congress and the President are giving us. We have 401 parks right now. Our budget has stayed pretty much constant for about a decade right now. So we get more parks, cost of living goes up, health insurance goes up, we pay for all those costs, but we have less money to pay for all those things. So I've been going around the community the last month or so, talking about either a $5 or $10 per car increase, talking about increasing all of our prices basically for camping and things like that. I've heard back from the community pretty loudly that the motorcycle increase is out of line with what the community would expect. I've heard that otherwise folks are pretty comfortable with some of the fee increases that we're talking about. I don't like fee increases. It's the last thing in the world I want to do. When I was younger, my mid-20s, I camp around the United States. I try to avoid fees. I would try to camp on BLM land outside the park boundaries so I didn't have to pay the camping fee. I can afford the camping fee right now, but I know a lot of folks can't. Thankfully, up here in the high desert, we've got a lot of senior citizens who've got that $10 pass, so they're good for the rest of their lives. We've got a lot of active duty military. We've got a pass for them that gets them into the park. We've got 3 entrances into the park that are free. So the 49 Palms Oasis, Indian Cove, and Black Rock, where you can go and you can recreate, and there's no charge to be in the park in those areas. It bums me out that we have to charge fees, but it's, I got to tell you, we need those to keep operating right now, because I can't figure out how to do it otherwise. We're depending more and more on volunteers, which has been great. The last couple of days, I've had like 4 or 5 people come to me, and I'm signing them up as volunteers right now to do backcountry patrols. Well, here's just an example. So we get called from Riverside County Sheriff to tell us that they found a body in one of the canyons on the southern end of our park. And that body looks like it's been there for about 2 or 3 months. I'm guessing we haven't had a ranger in that canyon in a year, just because we don't have the bodies, the living bodies, to go down and actually patrol those areas. It doesn't look like there's any, nefarious deeds that were done. It looks like he was, hiking and he died there while hiking. But man, I don't want to have a situation where I don't have folks patrolling that park. So that's my concern right now. That's what I'm going to be working hard on. I'm going to be working hard on getting money to redo the campground up at Black Rock, to get it paved and taken care of, to get our educational program up and running the way it should be. Those are my priorities right now that I'll be working on. I really believe in community engagement and civic engagement. You guys own the park. This is your backyard. You recreate here. You look at it every day. I value what you have to say. I've gotten some really good ideas in the last 60 days from folks that I'd never even thought about before, I'm putting them in the hopper, testing them out and see if they're going to work. So if you have ideas, please come to me. If you have ideas about the fee increase, stop by my office, write me a letter, email the park. That all goes into the decision-making process before we actually suggest those fee increases. Okay, that was 5 minutes. I was ready for you to hold up the sign. I wanted the red sign, your time's up. Does anyone have any questions? Pardon? We're in San Bernardino right now. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It has been a long day. I just want you guys to know I started at 7 this morning, and I've been all over the place today. So I went hiking up one of those southern canyons. I wanted to make sure that at least someone had footprints in those canyons, other than ATVs that I saw inside the wilderness area. Sir?
So where is your office located?
I'm in 29 Palms. I'm located in the 29 Palms office at park headquarters.
So, how do you guys patrol this? Is there one person in the office taking care of that business, and then most everybody patrols, or you?
So we've got 4 formal visitor centers inside the park. We have some informal ones like Indian Cove. So we have staff at all those locations. We have staff at the entrance stations inside the park. I've got about a dozen scientists that work inside the park that help us with compliance. Whenever we do anything, there's state and federal regulations that we have to comply with. So we have to have someone that goes out there and says, okay, if you're going to be putting in a route here, a climbing route, we're concerned, is there an Indian site here? Is there a wildlife issue that we're concerned about? Is there a plant issue that we're concerned about? So I've got those folks. I've got about 25 people that do maintenance, and so those are the ones who operate the road crews whenever we have a flash flood. They are the ones who rebuild the roads. There's the maintenance crew that does all the campgrounds, that take care of all the portalets around the park. I've got our administrative staff that keeps us going there, and the interpreters that talk to people.
You said eight.
I said we have 8 patrol rangers. So this is the law enforcement commissioned folks that are our EMT firefighter.
But they patrol.
They patrol.
I mean, do they patrol all day, or do they go out and patrol at certain intervals?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly when we have people patrolling, because I'd like the public to believe that we always have someone out there looking for people that are stealing snakes and people that are doing nefarious deeds. But you can do the math on that. I've got 8 patrol rangers to cover 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Any other questions? And so that offer's there, honestly. If you have any ideas you want to share, concerns, please give me a call. Stop by. I may be busy. You may have to sit for a little while. But I'll get to you, I promise. Unless I have to pick up the kids from school.
Thanks for coming out.
Hi, let's go to the item H. Our next guest, and see if I can get this right, works out of the Community Plans and Liaison Office under Assistant Chief of Staff Jim Ricker. And she actually is a neighbor of mine, and she made the mistake of telling me that she knows all about the sustainable energy on the Marine Corps Combat Center, or on the Marine Corps Base, the Combat Center. And she graciously agreed to come and give us a little presentation on exactly how they produce their power out there. Erin Adams, thank you.
I'm here tonight to talk to you about energy, sustainable energy, and also the other energy or other sustainability programs we have on the base. I've worked for this base about 5 years now in a completely different role. I'm an environmental scientist. I've worked for the Navy for about 10 years, doing things like air quality, water quality, and NEPA, and all kinds of things. And I was also a biologist for the Navy back about 10 years ago as well. I'm a part of this community. I've lived here off and on for about 10 years, and I started off as the program director of the Desert Institute out at Joshua Tree National Park, and fell in love with this area, so I'm glad to be back. And that's the reason I switched my career from the science side and the natural resources side over to community plans, because I love you people, and I love this community and our neighbors, Joshua Tree National Park, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight to tell you how the Marine Corps Base is being a good neighbor and doing our best to live up to the sustainable goals that the President has laid out for us. So oftentimes the Marine Corps is, wow, this room got 90% better looking. So the Marine Corps often gets overlooked, or the sustainability efforts and the infrastructure usually takes a back seat to the Marine Corps mission. The Marine Corps mission is so important. It's the reason the Marine Corps exists. But today we're going to look at the behind the scenes to how the Marine Corps sustains that mission and also are good stewards to the environment. And that's an entertaining little quote there if y'all got to read it. I couldn't help myself. So today we're going to talk about a few things, and I will be brief, I promise. We're going to have a little bit overview of the Combat Center in general, what it exists, what the facilities are, what we do, and then we'll go into the sustainability programs. And like Mark said, we're going to talk about energy, but we're also going to talk about air quality and greenhouse gases and water quality and water conservation. And then I want to talk a little bit about, end with the challenges we face and our way forward, because we do have a lot of hurdles to face. So right now, our base hosts about 27,000 people, and these are all approximate numbers. As you can tell, it's probably very difficult to nail down exact numbers. 27,000 people, that includes Marines and their families, and also people like me, civilians. Our area is more than 700,000 acres. And that includes the acquisition that everybody is probably aware of, which was about 163,000 acres of the Johnson Valley area. And that in approximation in square miles is 1,000 square miles. We are now the size of Rhode Island. And that can put into perspective the immense amount of planning and the immense amount of infrastructure that is needed to support a base that size. We are self-sustaining, so to speak. I mean, we definitely produce a lot of our own energy. We have our own wells. We have our own landfills. We have our own wastewater treatment plant. So we're like a little city out there. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how sustainability fits into those infrastructure systems. So President Obama put out some goals for all federal agencies under the Executive Order 13514, which was basically the greening of the government executive order. And he asked all federal agencies, like us and the Park Service and DOE, he asked them, listen, I want you all to become greener. I need you to have the goal of having sustainability. And the way we're going to reach that is through 3 goals. The first one is we need to improve our energy and water management. Second, minimize our waste. And third, we need to integrate those practices into your mission to ensure that it's not just a check in the box, but it's continually improving. Now, one thing you can see that all of those lead to is sustainability, but one thing you can see is that overall, what else is this doing other than reducing our pollution, reducing our waste? It's reducing our spending. Because every time we reduce our waste or we improve our energy and water management, we're saving the government a ton of money. So this benefits us twofold, being good stewards and saving money. So the base gets this executive order from the president, and we sit down and we put a think tank together, and we call ourselves the Green Council. And it's the meeting of the minds, and we get together at the base and we develop policies, and we develop objectives and goals to be able to reach these 3 goals that the executive order gave to us. And you can see this, you can see the decision making and the policies and the goals at green29.org. That is the base website for our sustainability group. And this group, this Green Council, developed an installation sustainability action plan. Now, this action plan is our roadmap to reaching our sustainability goals in water and energy, air quality, greenhouse gases, and even fuel use, reducing fuel use and reducing our waste. This has been an extremely successful venture. It has resulted in millions of dollars worth of savings and a ton of different ways we've reduced pollution through this. Now, speaking of waste minimization, one of the goals, 3 things that we have that we can quantify. The lead acid battery reconditioning program. We've saved the Marine Corps millions of dollars by not throwing out or recycling our lead batteries. We refurbish them on site and then redistribute them to the Marines to use. So we don't even pay for transport for them to be recycled. Everything's done in-house. And these batteries are refurbished to the point where they're actually better than when they were new. So that's how efficient it is. And our antifreeze recycling program. We no longer recycle our antifreeze off base. We do it in-house and redistribute it. Cuts down on transportation, and we don't have to purchase it anymore. And of course, our recycling program. Has anyone had the opportunity to have the base tour where they show you the recycling program? It's really impressive, and it's impressive in terms of how much we sort and recycle. And if you ever do get that opportunity, I encourage you to see it. So let's go into our first topic, energy. And this was the goal of the talk tonight. Energy is a big deal. It has a big impact on the environment, and it's expensive. One unique issue we have here at the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center as compared to other bases is we're quite remote. We're at the end of the SCE line. And in order for us to maintain a stable and consistent energy source so that our mission is an impact, because if you think about a rolling blackout where we go out for 4 hours, if we have 15,000 Marines on the base training, that's millions of dollars worth of productivity lost and safety concerns that are raised. So to fix this, the Combat Center has built 2 on-site power plants. And we also have solar fields and rooftop solar to help allow us to be more independent from an energy perspective. That way, when we have the rolling blackouts in town, the base can continue to operate and mitigate any issues that might arise in the training, because training requires communication, and if we don't have communication, it can get dangerous out there. So this is definitely a good plus for us. Our power plants are cogeneration. Anyone here, or is this group familiar with cogeneration? Cogeneration is an extremely efficient form of electricity production. It uses natural gas. It burns the natural gas, turns a turbine, and creates electricity. And that's where the similarity to typical power production ends. What cogeneration does is it takes it another step further. It takes the heat that's produced, we call it waste heat, from the energy production and harnesses it and uses it to heat our buildings, uses it to heat our domestic hot water, and eventually uses it through our absorption chillers to create air conditioning and cooled water. So it's tri-efficient. We're producing electricity, hot water, and heating, and air conditioning from the same amount of natural gas that would be used just to produce electricity. So it's an ultra-efficient form of electricity production using clean natural gas, and we completely eliminate losses through transmission and distribution by creating it on site. The other half of our equation for energy production is our solar. We have a very good solar program. We lead the Navy and the Marine Corps in our solar production. Right now we're at about 8 megawatts of solar production on the base. And we do this through a giant photovoltaic field and then rooftop. In fact, all new construction needs to consider having solar on their rooftop. So we are very pro-solar and very active in taking advantage of any opportunity to include solar in our construction. This is just a really quick graphic to show you how we've reduced our energy intensity over the years. Now, energy intensity looks at not just flat energy reduction, but looks at it more of like a per capita or square footage perspective. And the blue line is our actual use. The top red line is our baseline. That's what we were in 2004, so 10 years ago. We've dropped down to almost half of what we used to use. Well, not really, but it's a lot. And you can see the baseline, the black line there, that's the executive order goal. And we are definitely well below that. So my next topic is fuel use and reduction of fuel use. We are constantly looking to reduce fuel. This is really difficult. We live in an area where 1,000 square miles of terrain is off-road and very rocky, and the terrain is not advantageous to use a Prius or an electric vehicle. So we are limited to using four-wheel drive and for much of the base. But we have implemented some changes that have actually had huge impacts. So we evaluated our vehicle fleet, and now we are at almost 44% of our vehicles do utilize alternative fuels to alleviate our diesel usage. And that includes biodiesel and compressed natural gas. And we even use, on the main side, our little gems, which are electric vehicles. And that leads right into greenhouse gas reduction. So this is global warming and greenhouse gases, this is a hot topic right now. And the Marine Corps has embraced reducing the greenhouse gas production wholeheartedly and taken many steps to trying to reduce even further. Our base, by using cogeneration and solar, we've reduced our greenhouse gases by almost half. This is a huge reduction. Other ways we've reduced greenhouse gases is by allowing those who can telework to reduce their travel to the base. And we also have a very, very active carpooling group. And of course, our alternative fuels have a lower greenhouse gas profile, which helps. Other air pollutants that are produced on the base that we are reducing are particulate matter or fugitive dust, and other side products of combusting fuel, which are like NOx and SOx and things like that. Well, we want to ensure we're not impacting our neighbors. Your health and welfare is important, and what we have done about 20 years ago, we set up perimeter monitoring around our base to monitor the air that is coming onto our base and leaving our base to ensure it's not getting worse as it flows through the base. And over 20 years, it has been consistent that the air quality leaving the base is better than when it arrived on the base from the north. So our particulate matter is a lot lower, and we have no serious issues with ozone or NOx, and that data is always available to the public on that website. And it is, we do this in conjunction with the Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District. And they come out and service our machines and ensure that they are working properly. And it's been a really active partnership, and I think a really good tool to show the public our commitment to them.
Excuse me, does that
Sure.
have PM10 and PM1.5 too?
It has PM10, PM2.5, and we did a stint of PM4.
Oh, good.
Yes. That was a good question. Thanks, Pat. So my last topic, and this is probably the most controversial at the moment, especially for us people here down in Southern California, water conservation. We are facing one of the worst droughts that we've ever seen. So this is a very serious topic, and to put things to express how seriously we take this. In 2007, the base was using about 1 billion gallons of water a year. And now we have a lot of people, and that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But we have reduced our water usage down to less than half of that since 2007. Less than half. We are less than 1 billion gallons a year. We're down to about 800,000. That's a huge decrease in water usage. And that might even be lower. I haven't seen the fiscal year 2014 numbers yet. And we've done this through a very active water conservation program, which has eliminated a lot of the green areas on the base and replaced them with xeriscaping and removing of lawns. We've also utilized artificial turf and rocks to eliminate watering issues. But this has been a really good thing for the base, but we are cognizant that our aquifers they are subject to overdraw. And we have to be very careful at monitoring and managing our water. And we've been really good stewards of this, and we plan on improving it every time, at any juncture we can. It is an ongoing management challenge, though, for sure. So, in the end, challenges. We talked about a few things. The base is growing, so our energy use and our water use is growing as well, but we are doing our best to reduce them wherever we can, despite our growth. Other challenges we face is our terrain and our fuel use. It's really hard to implement electric vehicles in an area that requires four-wheel drive. Our greenhouse gases, reduction of that is limited by technology. We currently implement the best available technology known, and we hope that in the future we can embrace any other new technology that might help us reduce further. In the end, education is our key. Educate our residents on the base, our Marines, and our community on how we can be better stewards to the environment, how we can reduce our energy consumption and our water consumption. I'd like to end with a quick quote by Major General Mike Leonard. It was from oh goodness, this was a long time ago, at the end of a speech he was giving, and I think it's worth saying here because it encompasses the entire Marine Corps mission, both training and stewardship. A country worth defending is a country worth preserving. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards because I think you guys might be limited for time. But thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Now we know what goes on out there. Thank you.
Okay, our charter requires annual elections, and we'll have those now. They're from among the dais, and we'll hold those by roll call method. And first up is this office of the chair. If we have nominations, and I'm willing to sit where I am again.
Well, I nominate you, Mike. I think you've done a really good job, and I think that the way things are going now, we should continue. We should continue on this course right now, and perhaps next year or at the time of the next November, we can think about maybe changing things around. I know that some people wanted to keep things kind of the same, and I think that's a good idea, and I think you've done an excellent job, so I nominate you to remain as the chair.
I would accept the nomination. Any other nominations for office of chair? Okay, we'll do one at a time if we could. Mr. Rossi, would you call roll?
We're voting for the chair, and Mike Lipsa stands to be reappointed or reelected. So,
Do we need the roll call if there's only one candidate?
but we've had the roll call already.
Okay.
You need a second?
We have a second. All those in favor of Mike Lipsa to continue as chair of the MAC, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. So moved. Pass.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. For office of vice chair, I know Gail mentioned moving on, and she's done a great job. Thank you so much for sitting here for the last year, and I can't believe it's been a year. But her skills, which she will of course remain on the MAC, are evident in the, along with Mary Helen, the two of them wrote the resolutions that are before us tonight, and just extremely well worded and well thought out. Appreciate that, and to your credit. Nominations for office of vice president, I would like to nominate Mark Lundquist, if you'd accept. Okay, there's one, and good, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations for vice president? Okay.
All right. So nominations are closed?
Nominations are closed.
Yes. And all those in favor of Mark Lundquist as vice chair, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say aye. So moved.
Thank you. And the third office is office of secretary, which Mr. Rossi has graciously held for the last year. Appreciate all that. And I know that Ms. Tuttle expressed some interest in that, and I'd be happy to nominate you if you're willing to accept the nomination.
I accept.
Any other nominations for the office of secretary? Okay. Then we'll close the nominations.
All those in favor of Mary Helen Tuttle as secretary, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you. Board is reorganized, much the same, and there's no hell in Helen. We learned that this year.
It's a
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Moving on to our action items. And the first item is a resolution related. It came up last month when we had representatives bring us up to date on our community block grant development program, and how those funds were allocated became an issue that a lot of people were concerned with. And Gary, would you like to speak to that, or one of you, because I know that.
Sure. Mary Helen and I got together to work on this. Quite a few people at the last meeting were interested in the fact that all of the development block grants, the community development block grants, end up going to the cities like 29 Palms and Yucca Valley. And I think in the past, 29 Palms had given some of the money to other organizations. I don't believe Yucca Valley has. But right now, the unincorporated areas are not getting any of that money. And I think the unincorporated areas need it almost more than the cities do, because they have much greater access to funding than the unincorporated areas. So Mary Helen and I wrote up this resolution that I hope the MAC, if they have any questions, they'll ask questions, and we hope that they'll pass this and we'll send this on to the county. Do you want to read it, Mary Helen?
Oh, sure.
Here. It's not very long.
In reference to allocation of Community Development Block Grants, CDBG, and receipt of federal funds through the CDBG and similar programs for economic and community development, public services, public facilities, and infrastructure in the unincorporated areas of Morongo Basin in the county of San Bernardino. Whereas the unincorporated areas of Morongo Basin have a demonstrated need for financial assistance equal to or greater than the incorporated areas, and whereas statutory limits restrict the options available for the county's unincorporated areas to raise funds for infrastructure improvements and community assistance, and whereas the unincorporated areas are not constrained by the same limitations and thus have the opportunity to explore funding sources not available to the unincorporated areas, and whereas the nonprofit community organizations provide needed assistance to the unincorporated areas of the county, whereas these organizations provide community centers and facilities, neighborhood parks, recreational facilities, youth programs, and cultural centers, and whereas the incorporated areas administer CDBG funds generally within their own district boundary, effectively depriving the already underserved unincorporated areas of funds. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council urges the Board of Supervisors to adopt an alternative, more equitable policy for the distribution of CDBG funds in order to make available funding to the unincorporated areas of the Morongo Basin. That was a big piece of quiche and a whole tuna sandwich.
Could we have any comments from the board? Mr. Steiner, I will get to you for your comments, even though we have the first round. Any comments from the public on this matter? From the board? Okay.
Go Big Mac.
Okay. All in favor of the resolution as read, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you so much. Great.
Oh, here's your mic. Mike.
Thank you, Bob. That'll be a long silent period in the YouTube record. In the second resolution, which was also brilliantly crafted by the same two members of the MAC. It wasn't?
No, I didn't do this one.
Oh.
That's
Oh,
okay. You
green-
did this one to me. Oh, yeah. Was that the other half of 2 minutes?
Gail, I don't know, would you like to read it? You may want to synopsize it, okay?
Everybody to hear what it
Okay,
says, okay?
okay, we have time.
In reference to the Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan draft document, as it relates to the unincorporated areas of the Morongo Basin in the county of San Bernardino. Whereas the unincorporated areas of the Morongo Basin urge greater participation from the county of San Bernardino in the DRECP review process, and whereas these unincorporated areas contributed heavily to the renewable energy element of the county general plan via the BEAT report, and whereas residents of the unincorporated areas have established beyond any doubt that utility-scale renewable energy projects are unacceptable in RL-zoned rural communities, and whereas we believe the county general plan rightfully supersedes the DRECP, and whereas proliferation of utility-scale renewable energy projects creates significant long-term problems and impacts our environment, including wildlife, human inhabitants, and their respective communities, and whereas the county should exercise its right to have final word on placement of any and all renewable energy projects within its boundaries, and whereas the public remains absolutely clear in its overwhelming preference for small-scale, point-of-use energy projects on disturbed lands, and whereas the California Energy Commission, Bureau of Land Management, and California Department of Fish and Wildlife are looking to the county to distill input gathered from the communities within its boundary. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council urges the County of San Bernardino to fully participate in the review of the DRECP draft document and assign a staff member in the Planning Department to review the document and incorporate the renewable energy element of the County General Plan into its comments on the DRECP. We ask the County Board of Supervisors, Office of Administration, and others with knowledge and influence within the county to engage on behalf of those who will be impacted by implementation of the expected final draft.
Thank you. Would you like to entertain the motion? Anyone? We will come to comments. Is it a revision? Okay. Is it after? Okay. Would someone like to make the motion? Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a first and a second. You have an addition?
Just 2 words.
You can use that mic.
Wait. Just 2 words. Whereas proliferation of utility-scale solar renewable energy projects create significant long-term problems and impact our environment, including air quality, wildlife, human inhabitants, and their respective communities.
You're adding the word air quality.
I'm adding the words air quality. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay. Turning back to the dais, comments? I would like to say that it is extremely well drafted, and anybody who's been following solar development and the DRECP knows that this hit on every one of the points that have come up over the last year at least, and did it in a really concise way, touching on a lot of, every point touches on something that a great deal of debate happened on during the year, and I think it's just really well done. Thank you so much.
And we will add that word air quality.
Air quality. I think that's important, sure. Other comments? From the dais, if they're not, let's hear from you. Ms. Wolf.
For both of these resolutions, and it's wonderful to see this being adopted.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Rebecca Unger?
Were you going to address like extending the comment period? Or is this not part of that?
We passed a previous resolution at a prior MAC meeting about it.
Does it have to be as part of this review?
This is separate. Other comments from anywhere? Okay. If we could, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thanks so much. This passes. I'm sorry, what? As amended. Thank you. Judy, you might be our Sergeant of Arms in the future. Thank you. Moving on. Community officer and committee reports. Ms. Carmen, would you like to begin? And while you're getting your papers ready, I want to thank you for arranging the speakers as she has for every meeting, and we sure appreciate it.
Well, this last one is our friend Mark here, who put him to work for that. But at any rate, I do want to, since we're on the subject of programs, I do want to mention that it would be most helpful if anybody has any ideas for a program for someone you want to hear speak. Can be from the county, it can be from anywhere in the government or whatever, and I'll try and get it for you. And then I wanted to make one other comment too, and this is something that's she doesn't get much thanks, and it's a really pain in the neck job, I know, being secretary, and she's sitting there trying to crawl under the table, I think. Shirley, I want to thank you, and I'm sure the rest of the council wants to thank you for all of your hard work.
I don't have anything tonight other than I'm glad somebody finally thanked Shirley. I'll sleep a lot easier tonight.
Max Rossi from Wander Valley. We have two issues that appear to be recurring, and one of them is after the roads tax passed, I believe it will be implemented next year, but our roads continue to be overgraded, and in some places the rubber mesh that was under is beginning now to show, and I think some repairs are needed, so that's an issue that continues to be needing to be addressed. Also, the illegal dumping and throughout Wander Valley is an issue of great concern, but we have identified, thanks to our chairman, Mike Lipsitz, a program whereby we can have prevention of illegal dumping throughout the area, and we're applying for some funding for that. So for prevention and addressing the issue of illegal dumping in the unincorporated areas, and so that's coming up, and so that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say, on what Max had to say, there was a picture, I think Mike had it on his system, of an illegal dump in Wander Valley, and I was amazed when I looked at it. I thought it was maybe a recycling center for Burtec, and as far as the eye can see, it's just couches and tires and such. And I don't know if anybody's aware, but the tires now, even to take them to the dump, it costs you $6 a piece, and so that's why people are taking them out in the desert and tossing them. So please report any illegal dumping you see. The second thing I'd like to say is I want to congratulate Mike on the work that he's done in the flood area up in Joshua Tree. He took all the time, and the time that he has is limited doing the job he does, and he actually went up there and hauled a lot of trash to the dump himself for the citizens that got flooded. I was fortunate enough to help him on one of the days, but that's just a small amount of trash compared to what he and his partners, and I think he recruited a couple of Marines to help you with that. And I don't know if you're aware, but with your property tax, you get a dump card that's worth one dump each month. With it's 52 dumps. Mike filled up his dump card, dumping for other people, because unfortunately there wasn't any funds available. The county wouldn't forgive any of the trash that was dumped. Burchek's take on it was if they did it for one person, they would have to do it for another. So congratulations to Mike for filling up your dump card and helping the people.
So much. Lots going on in Landers. First, our longtime manager at the thrift store and secretary of the Landers Association, Linda Bogus. A lot of you know she passed away this month. She'd been fighting cancer for quite a while. And so the thrift store in the Landers Association is closed right now while we look for someone equally as adept, which will not be easy. Along the same lines, there's a proposed solar project in Landers on 35 acres north of it's on the south side of Ritchie Road between Bowman and Valley Vista, and Mark and I met with the developer out there who looked at the project. It is not a terribly large size, but it is not like anything else that you would see out there. They did talk about the view sheds, and their intent is to put up a fence with slats. And yes, you won't see the mirrors. You will definitely see the fence. The fence is 7.5 feet. The mirrors are the panels are 4.5 feet. They tried to be agreeable as much as they can. We asked for several possible mitigation factors and requests, and those included possibly a study of bird kills in the area and dust generation. So we're looking into that. On the plus side, also the lines would be buried, the transmission lines, but at the same time, I think what we've established over and over is that distributed generation, rooftop solar is the way to go. We don't want to encourage these projects. That said, they do own the land. They do have to get through the 31 points of the solar ordinance that was passed about a year ago this month. If they can do that, there will be little choice but to approve the project. So that remains to be seen whether that flies or not. I would encourage you, if you feel strongly about such a project, to write to Land Use Services, and I can give you that address at the end of the meeting. Yeah, it's south. It's about a quarter mile south of Ritchie Road, between Bowman and Valley Vista. Valley Vista, and it's 35 acres.
Mike, it's on the list, but is the initial study on the website that people can get?
The initial study on the website.
Is there a place where you can go and get the initial study that they did?
Yes, at Land Use Services. Okay. It's a long web link. I could send to anyone. Hi, Judy. Yeah, it's not really public comment, but go ahead. You might have some information about that.
Well, I was out looking at the site the other day, and I don't understand how they can put in all those electrical bulbs if they haven't got a...
Yeah, there's one problem, this complication with that project, and while we'd be happy that any project were to have buried transmission lines, they are out there, the trenches are dug, and they're laying lines, but the project has not been approved at all. So they said it was a business decision that they're putting in the cord before they have the lamp. So I thought that was sort of a brush-off kind of statement. I don't think that's certainly not something we'd want to encourage, and it's the same as grading an area that you have an application for before a project has been approved, and then oops, we graded already. We see that kind of behavior a lot. And this is sort of an example of the same thing.
Yeah, we did find out that there's two different departments, the Land Use Department for approving a project, which that has to go through. But there's another department, and this is one of the reasons we wrote the 31 point checklist went in. There's another department that approves the transmission lines to be put in. The one can approve one without the other, and they don't seem to be talking. And we found that very strange, and that's where, Mike, the term came up, they've got the lamp without the cord. something that we're probably going to look into and find out why the two departments aren't talking to each other. If they don't approve the project, the developer's going to have a lot of spent cash for nothing in buried transmission lines. So something we can look into.
Thank you. Also, you mentioned tires, and in Flamingo Heights, anyone who lives in Flamingo Heights, the tire company across from Hero will take tires with rims, and they turn them in. They ask you no more than 8 in a load, but they'll take them for no charge as a community service, and they'll take them to the recycling center. So they have they're excellent about that. Recycling, they get recycled at the Mitsubishi cement plant where they're used for fuel. I don't know the name of the tire company. There's one in Flamingo Heights across from Hero Market. It's at Moonlight, Starlight Mesa, and Highway 247. And I don't know. Also, there's in Pioneer Town. I know Jack Dugan isn't here tonight, but their water situation, we continue to make progress on it. That might be hard for people to buy since they've been making progress on it for a decade, but it really is sort of coming to a head. The Supervisor Ramos has made it clear that he wants to see this finished in his term, and we have every expectation to think that will be done. We're looking at a plan of having a facilitator involved. There's so many different elements involved in that. If there's a facilitator that can bring everyone together and make sure everyone's on the same page, it's going to help a lot, instead of lots of different community groups and water companies and the county involved. So that's promising. Landers Water, the annexation from county special districts to Bighorn Desert View is moving along. Looks like it'll be June 30th or 31st, whichever it is, at the end of June, at the end of fiscal year, conveniently. Somehow that was worked out so that would happen. There's still some challenges there, but I have every reason to believe it will pass. And last meeting came up about in Joshua Tree. There's a large culvert, a large drainage ditch that Department of Public Works put out for after the September 16th storm and flood in Joshua Tree, and it's like a giant ditch that runs from up in the hills south of the highway down to the highway, and it stops at the highway and it picks up on the other side of the highway, and anyone could look at it and think, oh my Lord, if it rains, it's going to be a tidal wave coming down there, and that is what would happen. And we looked into what the problem was, because it was brought up at the last MAC meeting, and the county's jurisdiction ends at just a few feet before the highway, and then it turns into Caltrans. And Caltrans, in working with the flood control district, is looking at it, but they have no budget to do anything with it. They are supposed to put a culvert that would bring the water under the highway. David mentioned recently that a culvert probably couldn't do it. The word bridge came up. If they can't afford a culvert, I don't see how they'll afford a bridge. They probably afford a flashing sign that says don't cross. There's a tidal wave. So I don't know what they're going to do, but lots of departments are aware of the problem and they're trying to work it out. Again, there's money. It all has to do with money. So let's hope it doesn't rain. Right. Thank you so much.
It's supposed to rain next week. Tonight I've heard a lot of interesting things, or things that I have thought about, and I hear it tonight. There's no money. Every time we want to do something, either the county doesn't have enough money. I know Morongo Valley is having its own issues with funding its fire department, and we're working on creative ideas. Our fire chief, Jock Johnson, got us a Forest Service truck for free. We just had to keep it maintained and have it ready for when it was called out. And we got to go to 3 fires up in Northern California, and that actually made our community services district and our fire department some very needed money. But no matter how you look at it, everything is getting more expensive, and it seems like it was really interesting to see the thing from the base. they seem to have lots of money to do all these projects, because these projects that they're doing are very expensive. They can't be cheap. So it seems like, that's a good place for our money to go, but I think our communities, especially infrastructure, need more funding, and we're going to have to come up with some ways to add funding to our communities. So that's my thought for tonight.
Regarding Copper Mountain Mesa, well, our movie nights have come to an end. Boo, I know. They will restart in the spring. It's getting a little cold to be sitting outside at 7 o'clock on a Saturday to watch a movie. Yeah, we might do that, but probably not until after Christmas or something. So anyway, we recently got free Wi-Fi, and that was really nice by Mojave Wi-Fi. So he donated the equipment. So we have free Wi-Fi for our members. We are also holding PTSD group meetings, I guess you would call them, twice a month, and it's with the Pacific Clinic. So that's kind of a nice thing to have out at our center. We are going to have an online presence. We have somebody who's a member who is much more techie than even I could imagine to be. So we might even do PayPal. Online, press the button. So this is, we're coming into the new centuries. That's a good thing for us. On the homeless situation, Morongo Basin Haven, they are still having their sleeping bag drive from October 1st till December 1st. Gently used or new sleeping bags can be donated at the Basin-wide Foundation, which is at the Yucca Valley Welcome Center, as well as the homeless population needs to be counted. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but they are looking for volunteers. It's called a point-in-time count, and it is going to be done on Thursday, January 22nd from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And they're looking for volunteers to sign up, and what you'll do is they'll assign you an area, assign you a group leader, and you will go out and count how many homeless people there are. So it's going to be on Thursday, January 22nd from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And if you'd like more information or you'd like to sign up to have a volunteer position, you can go to San Bernardino County HomelessCounts.com. San Bernardino County HomelessCounts.com, or you can call His Honor over here, Mike. He seems to have a ticket into the county. Yeah. Anyway, they're looking for adult volunteers from every community, from all walks of life, college students, organizations, faith-based, current or formerly homeless, bilingual, service providers, business and neighborhood groups. They need people to do this. And the more people we count, then that's the bigger the population is of the homeless, and we get a little more notice. If they only count 36 and there's actually 136, well, we still want a shelter up here. Anyway, that's all I have. Yes.
How did it, if I want to volunteer to go out and count,
Yep.
these people wearing signs.
Well,
you go in groups of 3, and you'll have maps. We're at known locations where these homeless people are congregating. There'll be a training session the week before, so you won't have signs, but they'll also know that you'll have goodie bags with hygiene items and some meal tickets, things like that. So we're hoping that the volunteer groups will be sought after as much as they are seeking to count the homeless people. So we're working now to identify where those are, and no one's going to be set out on your own trying to count homeless people. We don't want duplication. Also, people will answer a very brief questionnaire, so we know there's no duplication in the count. It's just a snapshot. It'll be happening nationwide on the same day. Thank you.
She's got one.
That's okay.
I think this works. All right. Personally, from Desert Heights, I have some questions about roads, which as soon as I get a minute, I'm going to ask Mike to go on a little tour with me before we talk to the county, and probably John might like to come along too. Aside from that, we have good things happening. This is the 20th anniversary of the California Desert Protection Act, and there are many things happening in the basin which you can participate in. There are flyers on the table up front, lovely picture on the front, lots of info on the back. And you can also go to a website, caldesert20.org. So in the Morongo Basin, on November 13th from 10 to 12, there's an Eco Discovery Walk in the Big Morongo Canyon Preserve. And from 12 to 2, lunch, music, and art at Coventry Park. Friday the 14th in Joshua Tree, 1 to 3 guided hikes on Morongo Mojave Desert Land Trust Quail Mountain property. And from 5 to 8, there's an art reception at Joshua Tree National Park Visitor Center. Coming right along, right? Yep. Okay.
We're going to have great food and drinks.
Okay, perfect. Saturday, November 15th at 29 Palms from 3 to 4. There's a mural dedication at the Old Schoolhouse Museum, which is going to be fun. And then from 5 to 9, the Desert Sky Dinner, music, stargazing at Smith's Ranch. And so this is going to have a lot of interesting people. And for those of you who are familiar with Bruce Pavlik, who wrote, I actually brought the book. He wrote The California Desert, which is an extraordinarily readable biological and human history of the deserts. He's going to give a presentation, and he actually now works at Kew Gardens in England, so aren't we lucky? And then Sunday the 16th in Yucca Valley at 11 a.m., Saving the Ancients at Boys and Girls Club. That's a presentation, I'm sure, by Robin Cabali. And 12 to 3, Party with Coyote Cool at the Boys and Girls Club. So there's your list of things to do. Also is the roadmap to the California Desert Scenic Routes. When the California Desert Act was passed 20 years ago, that's when Joshua Tree became a park as opposed to a national monument. The Mojave Preserve was changed to become a national park unit as opposed to BLM land, and Death Valley became a national park. But we also had 69 wilderness areas and assorted wilderness study areas. And how do you get to all of them, and where are they, and what are they? And they're right here. They're all labeled, and you can tell by the roads where to go. So there's that on the table. And then coming up as part of all this is the Joshua Tree National Park Art Exposition, Oasis of Mara, 29 Palms, December 5 through 7. Get your information. Okay, that's all I have to say. Have fun.
Thanks so much. I know we had another public comment. Mr. Steiner, if you'd like to take the podium, and let's hear from you about street signs.
There we go. Yeah, I live out in the Desert Heights area, and there's been a lot of problems. I mean, people get lost. I had an incident 15 days ago where I saw somebody had broken into a house. They were still there. I called the sheriff's department, and somehow we were disconnected, and I got another dispatcher, and I called. She goes, I can't help you without an address. I said, I can't give you an address because there's no street signs. You know, I can meet you here and there, but I ended up hanging up. But I've had people lost out there. Another time somebody had bullets going over their head. They didn't know what street they were on. No, street signs are expensive, but maybe we could go with some of these wooden posts that we used to have years ago. You know, at least something. It seems like when you get off the maintained roads that there is no street signs. No direction on where you're going. Another thing I'd like to bring up too, I didn't put down there, was some of our roads have been repaved with that, I guess, that recycled asphalt. And they're worse than when they were dirt roads. It looks like it's coming apart. I don't know what's going on with it. But anyway, I wanted to give my public input on some of the problems. So, thank you.
I think the key word there was county maintained roads. that once you get off the out of the county maintained road system, you get nothing. And if there's a special road district, there'll be some funds available through your property tax bill portion to pay for that. But a lot of people, a lot of these areas they've been paying the same $20 annually for 20 years, and that $20 doesn't buy today what it did when it was initiated. And very few of them have any cost of living adjustments built into them. That's something that they're correcting now. How there can be roads in the county that aren't county roads, I don't really understand. I can't defend it, but that's sort of the way the system is. If you are in a special road district, I would encourage come to this building, because the fellow that runs this building, Tim Millington, is responsible for those roads out here, those districts, and he would be a treasure of information.
So I'm aware that we don't get anything out there. However, they also gave us things that we didn't want, which was really crappy, unrecycled asphalt, which is a whole lot worse than dirt roads. So they owe us. So we need to talk to them.
Is that you done, Mr. Stein? Thank you. Thanks so much for your comment. Dr. Carmen?
You know, as I dutifully filled out Mary Helen's survey, there was nothing on that point that he just made. There was nothing about, do we need signage? Do we need direction? And that might be a big-time project for HUD. Just to put, it wouldn't be that expensive, but if they were strategically around. The people also have to understand that since it isn't done, they have to be careful. I wanted to go back, Mike, to the point you made about the Landers project and the wiring going in with, and that under one department and the main project being under another department. That's the same thing. I think I got the location right. The Alta Vista thing with the, doing the electrical and so on. I think that needs to be addressed, not because of those two projects, but in general, because there's likely to be something big that really gets nasty in terms of the environmental impact. And I think that needs to be addressed now in a resolution from the MAC, and explain that. And then also, I think that input needs to go into the general plan update. I really think that's important, because otherwise you get some really unnecessary screw-ups. In other words, a project needs to be handled in a coordinated way. I thought that was what government was supposed to be about. So, enough of my babbling.
Really good point. Public Works should not be issuing permits without a permit for the project.
I think it's also, I agree. Maybe we could take that up next month. Land Use Services, that committee I think meets in the coming weeks, and perhaps we'll talk about that. Thank you. Other items for the next agenda? That's open to anyone.
Mary Helen's survey that he's talking about was the paper survey that was up at the table, and I handed to some people. If you've completed it, please give it to me. I'm sending all the paper surveys out on Thursday to the company who the county hired to tally the results. So if you give them to me before you leave, that would be great. Thanks very much.
And if there are any other items for next month's agenda, I do know the High Desert Medical Center will be here. Ms. Carmen was kind enough to book them for the presentation, and according to the medical center, they're at a pivotal point. We are going to lose them, or they're going to affiliate, and that'll be for the voters to decide, because the medical center is in a district that the public owns. So very important. With that, no other business. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.